apologize for that. I owe you a beer next time I'm in Seattle, but I just started the Hangout on air live now.
All right.
So we're being recorded at this point. So my apologies for doing that. So great example. So let me just ask the following question. If you had not been doing that and like helping customers over Twitter, how would you I mean, how much harder would it have been to get started and get going? Like, was that the key that got customers buying?
Yes, actually, I had the previous experience also, Kevin. So that I think that was the only thing that worked actually, because like we've been like building things and just like posting them, like having like launching them and the official launch, and nothing shows up. No one shows up like when you just like officially launch and things like that. So that was the only thing that actually like moved the needle, is like connecting directly and like seeing like who's in the area and like who's like really influencer here and things like that.
Yeah. Yep, I totally great example. We'll have to follow up afterwards because I would love to learn more about like how that actually worked for you and what you found, that what tools you used, what you found that worked, that didn't work. But generally speaking, yeah, that's where I found social media can still matter. Building relationships and trust is great. Trying to market and like do social media marketing to sell your stuff, in my experience, huge waste of time. People completely tune it out. It's only when you try to connect with them one-on-one as people and make it clear you're trying to solve their problems. And just so quickly, what does your problem help? What problem does your product solve for people?
So right now, actually, we are building up. It was a plugin on top of Evernote, but we are now pivoting to be like a standalone solution. So what we've been doing actually, it was offering templates for Evernote. So instead of just starting every time from a blank text note in Evernote, you can define different fields and then like start filling in your templates as like the thing that you usually keep doing and taking notes about. So you can have like templates for meeting and templates for inventory taking and things like that.
So excellent, great. So I totally get it. I totally get who the customers are. I totally get the messaging behind it. So. You don't need me to come to the next meetup. You can do the presentation. So this is awesome. All right. I'm going to go ahead and just continue on here from there. So with that example, I think you basically have you sort of heard from this use case what the results of this are. And when you start putting yourself out there and following a process like this and prioritize helping them over everything else, your customer development gets a lot easier, right? Because people will tell you their problems. As opposed to the way most people are trying to teach lean startup right now, which is go out and grab people off the street, and ask them your 10 interview questions and do hypothesis A/B testing. And that's a great way to teach people how to do interviews and to get people thinking in terms of a lean startup practitioner. But if you're actually going to want to get insight and really figure out how do I solve people's problems that are complex, you're going to need them to trust you enough to really open up with you. And being helpful gives you that opportunity. The other thing you will find is that as you start helping people out like this, you will blow them away because they are not used to it. They are used, everybody else in the world, especially any bigger competitor if you have, is thinking scale. They're thinking, how do I drive more people through my funnel? How do I send more anonymous emails? How do I bug them, with stuff that just to give their attention? And they're sick of it. And when you invest in them, you will blow them away with how much, and they will become your biggest advocates, and they will sell your product for you. And even if your product is falling apart and crap, people will still pay for it. And I'm going to give you a painful example from my own experience. So when I first launched my current product, So Helpful, it has it has a scheduling component to it. And we had built an MVP on top of some third-party products to just test out the idea, but we reached a point where we needed to build our own scheduling tool. Well, the first month that we launched that tool, whenever somebody visited the server, there was about a 50% chance that the app would crash for 15 minutes. So for a month, I didn't sleep because I'm not a great programmer and I couldn't figure out how to fix it. And eventually found a friend of mine who's a Ruby expert to go in and look in the Rails stack and find that there's some monkey patch from 3 years ago that was causing the problem. But for a month, our product was effectively useless. That people would be emailing me and say, hey, I just saw your site's down, just letting you know. And of course, I wasn't sleeping. I was doing everything like we could. And it didn't matter. We didn't lose a single customer. In fact, we grew that month because even while we were trying desperately to get the thing to even work at all, people were still signing up because they could see what we were trying to do, and they bought into the vision because we had invested so much time into helping them out. So people will really become forgiving when you make it clear that you're there to help them. And I guess the other thing I would say is that all of us that are doing these type of tactics have found that people will pay us in different ways. And I use pay in quote there because there's all different types of currencies. Some people will pay you by just getting out your credit card and giving you their money. Some people will pay you with their social capital by giving you great testimonials or tweeting to all their friends that you're wonderful. Some people will pay you by just giving you tremendous insight into what your market needs and what your products are. So those are the kind of things that come out when you actually focus on being helpful. So I'm going to do a quick case study here from Seattle. So this is Mark. I'm gonna butcher Mark's poor name again, but I believe it is Mark Horshofsky. I think I got that right. Do any of you guys know Mark? MovingWorlds.org. Have you heard of his company? So Mark runs a. Go ahead, John's heard of him.
Yeah, they're a local company.
John, you guys had a question? Just waving your hands because you said you can hear.
So they're a company at Hub Seattle, and they're part of the Fledge Accelerator. They went through that process, and they've recently been funded by David Banks of Energy Friendly Ventures. So they seem like they're doing pretty well. They do a help people with skills find places to go to use their skills to help other people, and they'll pay your way.
Yeah. Great description, John. So I think the term they use is experteering. I think that's the right word. It says, so it's I'm a professional. I just graduated from college. I want to get some more work experience, and I want to go travel the world. Can I go find an opportunity to go, volunteer my skills at a company some other place? And so I'm getting a chance to see the world and go to a new place, and I'm getting my skills built up. And they help match you up with those kind of opportunities. And so what Mark realized early on is, and they take what? I'm sorry, John?
They pay for the air flight and the hotel. So your food and staying and travel are all covered.
Right, exactly. So great guy, compelling case, basically one of the few backable social enterprise startups that I've seen. It was actually oversubscribed, so more investors wanted to be in than they could get money for. And we did an interview with Mark, which you can watch on our blog there if you want to hear him describe what he does. But what Mark found was that early on, they had a lot of assumptions about what the messaging was about their product and why people would do this. And they had a lot of ideas that it was about kind of sticking it to the man and, I'm going to get out of this corporate environment. And that's really not what resonated to people. But they only figured that out when they went out and actually started talking to people and trying to help them. So they just made themselves available to help anyone who was interested in doing this, in doing experteering, going out to the world and finding these kind of opportunities. They did this before they had a product, and they did this while they were building their product and while they were exploring their ideas. And that really gave them the insight, because by putting themselves out there, whether it was on Skype or Hangout or whether it was in a webinar and offering to help people one-on-one, that's where they got the insight into what they really needed to do. And once they got their product up, now what they do is when somebody signs up or expresses an interest or gets in their sales funnel for Moving Worlds, they offer to help them not use Moving Worlds, but help them with experteering. So Mark does a great job of reaching out to people and saying, hey, if you, we saw you're interested in going around the world. If you're interested in doing this, I went through that process myself. I learned what it takes. I'll be happy to help you out if you want some advice, figuring out how do you find the right opportunity for you. And as you can imagine, a lot of those qualified leads that get on the phone with him or call him end up becoming paying customers, because after talking to Mark, they trust Mark. So that's, sales 101. You get somebody on the phone, they're more likely to buy. But even though the ones that are not necessarily going to buy from him, they will actually give them insight into their pricing, why they're not going to buy, what their alternatives are, all the things you need to know to figure out what do I need to do to get out to this audience and scale. So you can read the interview with Mark. He's also a great local guide, helps out a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm sure we'd be happy to help any of you as well. So that's one example from a couple dozen that I could give. All right, so quick summary. So if you got more than 100 customers and you're growing, that's the time to start worrying about all these other ideas. Let me just flip back to the last slide here. So
just
more than 100 customers.
Just as an exercise, go all the way back to your first slide and just go quickly through it so you have it on the recorded thing.
Yeah, sure. Should I do that after I wrap up? Actually, no, I'll do that from the beginning. So let me do that right. Okay, right. All right, so we'll skip me. Hi, I'm Kevin. How's that? More about me. So I have been helping startups apply lean startup principles for the past 5 years. And what I found is that there are tons of them out there trying to do everything right, trying to interview customers, meet customers, get insight, and they're really struggling to do it. And of the ones that are being successful, that are getting early customers and getting that first 100 customers they need to really do lean startup, they are doing something different. They're actually being helpful. The reason that a lot of people are struggling to kind of get started and get going is that our customers are overwhelmed. This is what my email inbox looks like, and I would imagine that your email inbox is full of an unending stream of crap like this. It turns out that the customers you want to reach, they're overwhelmed. There's too many people sending in emails. They're stuck with endless choices, and they can't keep up with all that's happening. And because products have gotten so easy to build, the bar for a quality product keeps going up. And if you're going to try and compete and get customers with just your product alone, you're setting an extremely high bar for yourself. And not only that, instead of focusing on the customers and their problems, a lot of entrepreneurs are doing what I've done. That is focusing on the right things at the wrong time. So we're trying to do growth hacking by, over different platforms. We're trying to hit product market fit when we don't even have any customers. We're trying to write blogs and do content marketing so people pay attention with us. We're worried about how wonderful the design is of our product or what color the logo is, or we're working on our elevator pitch. And if you have less than 100 customers, almost all these things are a huge waste of time because you don't have enough data to be able to optimize any of them. So no matter what you do, all these things are going to be really hard before you have your first 100 customers. And it turns out there is something much easier, and that is get out there and start helping people. So pick who you want to work for, meet them, try to help them out any way you can. Use these conversations to get insight, to build relationships, build trust, and then use that to develop your solutions and actually convert people to sales. And as it turns out, this works. When you do this, you learn what they want. People will evangelize for you. They will actually buy even when your product isn't that good because they like you. And I did a quick case study of Mark Korzhowski. So Mark is a founder, and I think this is where the audio started, so I'm going to just skip this part and go right to the end. And so that's it. So I guess the best way I can say is that too many entrepreneurs out there are trying to get people to pay attention to us. And it's too hard, right? To try and get people to pay attention to our ideas, our products, our new thing, it's pretty much impossible. Even for the startups that I help that are in the top accelerators, that got the top money, that got the right people on their board, got all the things that all of us want to get going, it's too hard even for them because people are just overwhelmed. So rather than spending your time trying to get people to pay attention to you by getting in TechCrunch and putting your product on Product Hunt or all these other great things that might be useful someday, focus on the people. Start paying attention to them and stop trying to get them to pay attention to you. And it's a lot easier to get started. Thanks a lot, everyone. I really appreciate your time. I apologize again for starting the recording late. But now I will take any other sort of general questions that people have for me.
So you spoke a lot about technology. If you have any specific advice for retail?
Retails. Are you? Let me just ask a question, Liz. Are you doing something that's new, where you have market risk, or are you sort of taking an idea that already works and setting up a retail shop?
It's a little bit of both. So in the States, there's these things known as growlers for beer. So it's so people are starting to buy into the growler experience, and I want to leverage that while it's still young industry, and basically create growler refill stations in densely populated neighborhoods. So that way consumers don't have to travel.
Right. So.
Great idea.
Great. Okay, so I think you answered my question, is that there is market risk, right? It's not a known market, right? And if you were telling me I'm starting a pizza shop, I would say that's a great idea. It's a lot better way to make a living than what I'm doing. Good for you. But most of us are crazy, and we're trying to start something that's new instead. And if they're not already clear like examples of competing products where people buy, then these principles are going to work. Like people are going to have problems, and you're going to be trying to figure out how to sell them. So maybe that is, and I don't understand the growler product, but whatever problem that is that people are having, try to figure out how you can solve that for them, how you can get them connected to whatever solution they look for to build that initial trust. So any other questions? Go ahead.
So I'd like to hear a few examples. If you don't even have a baby product yet, you can be helpful to people in a variety of ways. Like, hey, we don't have a product yet, but let's talk to you about your thing. Or could you just give some clever ideas of interesting ways that one might be helpful at that early stage? I'm really trying to think out of the box here, and I'm kind of hitting the wall.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. Great. So a lot of different ways that you can.
Delay.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The success we've had has been. This has really worked well for us already. I mean, people love us because we're helpful. They tell their friends because we're helpful. So I'm trying to think of a new, even better, clever way to do it. So, yeah.
Yep. So I guess my first advice with anybody doing this is be a little selfish about this. So like altruism and paying it forward is great. A lot of people talk about that, and Adam Grant writes about that in his book Give and Take. But if you think of this as a business strategy, it's critically important that you start picking the people you want to help and focusing on them. So once you pick the people you want to help, it allows you to put all your energies into them and sort of being more general. So I didn't know, I'm not sure, maybe you're already doing that, but I just want to make sure I was clear about that, because based on the way you described it, it sounded like we're helping people. And my first advice is be focused. Once you start doing that, lots of ways you can do it. You can do webinars. You can organize a meetup. You can organize a conference. You can do Hangouts. You can start a newsletter. You can start a blog. You can do one-on-one calls over Skype or Hangout, which is what I found to be most effective because I'm living in Beijing and that's how I connect with people. You can do just about anything to meet them as long as you know who you're meeting. It's a channel that they're comfortable in, and it's a channel that you actually want to work in. Some people hate writing and want to make videos. Some people like working on social media. Some people hate social media. Maybe your customers don't even use social media, then it's not an option. So there's really is almost an unlimited ways, and you can just find out who they are and find out what are they doing now, where are they hanging out. So was that enough different options for you?
Yeah, it sounds like the way that you're being helpful does not necessarily need to match directly your product as long as it's sort of in the same focused area. that
So
correct?
the number one thing is the people. Yeah, so number one is the people. Like, am I helping the people I want to work for? Is it the customer? Because winning that trust is the hardest part of doing this, right? And if you can have that aligned with your product and what you're doing and the solution that your product has, that's even better. And the way you do that is you find those people, find the problem they have, and say, hey, I'm interested in helping you solve X. So if you're building a new analytics tool, it's like, who we want to work for, we know we're going to go after small businesses, right? Companies with less than $1 million a year in revenue, but more than $250,000. And so maybe your offer is, we help any small businesses with their analytics, and just get out there and start helping them with that. Now, you could help the small businesses with anything, but helping them set up their printer, they'll earn trust. But obviously, if you can help them with something that's related to their product, they'll be even better for you. But it also depends on the stage you're at. If you are just starting out, just help them with anything. Man, just get out there. Be their best friend. At that point, it doesn't matter. It's when you get more product definition that you want to be more specific.
Thank you.
It sounds like you're talking about
Good questions.
Oh, the sub 100. How do you use some of these techniques when you get beyond the 100 and you're looking to maybe approach the 1,000 or 2,000? Like going beyond, and like when you're trying to assemble a team on this some of the lean startup kind of deal. You kind of understand my question? Is like, how do you kind of
So once you get basically, I think basically at that point you have to start looking at things that are more scalable, right? So for me, when you have less than 100 people, if it means I got to meet you for coffee, get on a call with you, I'm going to invest in whatever I can, right? Because I'm just trying to get started. Like, I'm just trying to win you over. And so I'm going to put myself out there, like knowing that my message is crap, my product is crap, that I don't really know what I'm doing, that my software's falling apart. I'm going to invest everything I have in you. Once you start getting above 100, you want to go to 1,000 or 10,000. That's when you have to look for more scalable ways to help people. And these are the kind of things that I'm actually starting to deal with now. And so that is like educational courses. How can I teach you something that helps you become more effective? How can I write helpful content, things that will help you do your job more effectively? How do I do things within our product that helps you do things more effectively? So you basically have to, at that point, you have to start looking at what are the things that I'm doing that are more scalable to get your attention. Sponsorships, conferences. That's where most people try to start, though. Most people try to start with content marketing, right? Like, trying to get 100 people to read your blog, it's a lot easier to get 100 of them, to go organize a meetup and getting 100 of them to show up in a room like this, and it is to organize a blog and getting them to read it.
I saw a thing on
So other questions?
Yeah, I never mind.
Go ahead.
Oh no, kind of going along with what you said. He said like he invested in like podcasts and some other different type of advertising that catered to his demographic or whatever.
Yep. I mean, the biggest thing is you're gonna run out of time, right? You're gonna find that you can't help everybody one-on-one, right? You just can't do it because there's only so many hours. They're gonna look for other means to do that as you get bigger. But like I said, man, when you're first starting out, email, social media, whatever it is, make those relationships, just connect with people. Whatever it takes, handwritten emails. When somebody signs up for my product, in the subject line, I put, I hand wrote this email, right? Because I don't want any doubt. I don't want them thinking it's coming from an autoresponder, right? Good questions. Anybody else?
So can you talk a little bit about the risk for the very early startup, the very small company, when you start really focusing on helping that one big first customer, they become a customer and begin to be the sole definition of your product, right? So you had this market-based solution plan, and now you've got this one person, and you're trying to make a mark around being helpful, and you start going down a customization road that you might feel is leading to a dead end, and it's only their solution, not your product.
Yeah, it's pretty common, especially so you're selling to an enterprise customer. Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah. So big companies are going to try to turn you into services companies. They're just going to, right? That's what they're going to try. They don't want you to be a product. They want you to be a service. So what I guess my advice is to, try to start helping other ones. Right? Try to start helping other people in the space and start focusing more and more attention on them. And knowing that you're doing that at some risk, and that risk is that you're going to end up killing the cash cow, the one that's currently paying you. And I've worked with some teams where we've actually had to go into the management and say, "Look, guys, like we can keep doing what you're saying, but the reality is, it's going to cost you a lot more in the long run. Like, you really want all this customization, us to build all these APIs and all this infrastructure for your company, because like maintenance-wise, you're getting locked into something." Instead, we want to be focused on building X, Y, Z, and even though it's not what you're asking for us, we think you're going to get a better product at a lower price because this is what other people want as well. And I'd like to tell you those are easy conversations, but they are not. So I don't have a silver bullet for this one, but I'm pretty familiar with the problem.
There is a pretty good number of us here who are already engaged in services. I'm just sort of curious, like,
Yep.
Can you talk any more about either the advantages or disadvantages that we might have for being able to leverage that position with our customer segments?
So let me make sure I understand the question. So the question is, you're already a services company. You're looking to get into products. Is that it?
I'm asking the question more, in terms of there are some of us here who are already doing, services and all that, and whether or not we're actually, putting together a product. I'm just sort of curious if there's any immediate takeaways that we can take from the talk in terms of advantages or disadvantages having the service as opposed to a product. Does it make sense?
So I guess I'm not sure if you're asking me is being helpful a good marketing strategy for a service company, or is running a service company a better business to be in than being a product company? That's what I don't quite understand.
Sorry, I might not be expressing exactly what I'm trying to get at here. I'm just sort of curious, are there any specific advantages or disadvantages that we might have in terms of getting to know a customer segment better, or multiple customer segments better, just because we are already in service? Does it make sense?
Yeah. No, I got it. Yeah. No, I got it. You got it. Okay. Yeah. No, you said your advantage already. You're already out there. It's a huge advantage. And so it's if you already are working with these customers, you're already solving those problems. You got relationships, and you're at a much better advantage. You're at a very, very strong position to get started, because you already know there's things you already know that are not obvious to the people. You know what their biggest problems are. You know what their budget's like. You know who writes the checks. You have a lot going for you. The reason that a lot of services companies don't make that transition is because they've got a good business and they're happy with it running services, and they look at the reality of starting a product company and they realize that that's not something they want to do, because products just take a long, although everybody talks about how great products monetize, and they do if you find the right one, but the risk is insanely high, and it takes a very long time. And most services companies don't want to undertake that, which I can fully respect. But yeah, in terms of if you're ready to make that switch and you already know it, especially if you're on the sales side, then you're in a great position.
Thank you.
So
I would say, John, maybe one or two, and then go ahead.
Yeah, so to help the services people, because in Seattle we have a lot of people that used to do it for a big company, so now they're going to do it for a little company. They're going to be a consultant and do services. That's a normal pattern. Why should I consider a product company instead of just being comfortable with the services path that's laid out before me?
Well, I think if you're asking that, you shouldn't do a product company. I think people that do product companies are drawn to this because they love building products. They want the opportunity to build something more scalable. They like building software. But as far as what's the advantage of doing product versus services? If you want to have an enjoyable career, make a good living, provide for your family in a stable environment, then doing services is great. Products are extremely, extremely hard, extremely high risk, and that's why people over 40 don't do them. It's not that we're not creative; we're just not nuts.
But
But if you want to make an impact on the world, make a big change, and make a lot of money, you're going to do it in the product side, not on the service side.
Right, high risk, high reward. I just think most people don't realize how high the risk is until they get into it.
Yep. Other questions? One or two more? Ryan, got a question in there somewhere?
A few questions in there, but
You want to do it?
I don't know if it'd be appropriate.
All right.
in front of everyone.
So I have the theory of UMAT, one order of magnitude at a time. And so you've been talking about the 100. I think getting the first customer is a good startup weekend kind of project. And I think that getting the first 100 is a good coffee shop kind of project where you visit people in person. Is there something special about the first 1,000 or something special about the first 10,000 that is a behavior change that you want to label?
Yeah, I think basically once you get past that first 100, then you guys start looking at patterns, and you got to think, where's my growth going to come from? And I don't think most entrepreneurs have a hard time with this. Like once they get that first 100, they've been working at it for a year or two. They know their business, right? And you can sit down and you can have them. I did a blog post on this yesterday, actually. So it's what we're going through right now. Developing your customer personas. Okay, so who are the people using it? Learn about them. Then, what are their big problems? How much do they pay, and how do I get more of them? And it's more executional at that point. And most teams don't really struggle with that as much because the momentum of their there's forces pulling them along at that point. Versus that first 100, man, it's all about how many doors can you knock on.
Any more questions?
Not that it's easy. It's brutally hard, but.
Okay, sounds like we're done. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
So if you have people that you want to talk to, please do. And if you want to talk one-on-one with Kevin, please work with Chris, and he'll set you up. And thank you for coming. Our next time is in